Hello, I'm Adrian Finnegan. This is Counting the Cost on Al Jazeera, your weekly look at the world of business and economics. This week, we'll be looking at Canada's role in global trade, find out how closely its energy and other sectors depend upon the US and Mexico, and why it wants to boost trade here in the Middle East.
I'm Catherine Soy at an oil rig in northern Kenya. The government wants to start oil production in the coming years. I'll be telling you how and what people here are saying about it.
Plus, we'll look at global initiatives to get caregivers back into the workplace, find out who's really benefiting from so-called returnships. Trade rules between two of the world's largest trading partners are about to change. Canada and the United States share the world's longest international border, so trade is central to their relationship as jobs depend on the easy flow of goods and services. Over 400,000 people flow across the border on a daily basis. Two-way trade is worth $2 billion. But the US wants to tweak the North American Free Trade Agreement, the decades-old free trade deal between it, Canada, and Mexico. After China, Canada is the United States' biggest trading partner, but that economic relationship is much more important to Canada. The value of Canada's trade worldwide is equivalent to 65% of its GDP, and the United States buys 3/4 of Canada's exports. So the US is its biggest export market. Energy trade is the largest component of this cross-border commerce. The US imported $53 billion in energy from Canada in 2016. Meanwhile, Canada is hoping to boost trade with the European Union by up to 20%. The Canada-Europe Free Trade Pact, known as CETA, though, has yet to be fully ratified. Well, on a showery afternoon in Doha, I caught up with Francios-Philippe, Canada's Minister of International Trade, who was in the Middle East this week. I began by asking him how integrated Canada's economy is with the rest of the world.
Well, today, the interesting thing now with NAFTA, which is our free trade agreement with the United States and Mexico, and what we have achieved with Europe, we have preferential market access to about 1.1 billion consumers. So that's a very significant, we're very much an Atlantic nation. But also with our United States and Mexican friend, we have this preferential access to market. But now the next phase for us, obviously, is to look at the Pacific. We're very much a Pacific nation as well. But the reason of the visit in the region was really also to make sure that we strengthen our trade relationship with the nation of the GCC, because I think it's quite important for Canadian. There's a lot of opportunity on the agri-food sector, in the aerospace sector, in the engineering and construction sector. This is a region which is booming. I don't need to tell you that. Obviously, we want to be there, and I think Canadians in Canada, Canadian business could really play a key role in this region.
You talked about NAFTA. How reliant upon trade with the US is Canada's economy?
Well, that's our most significant trading partner. About 70% of our trade goes to the United States. I think what we've been able to achieve recently was really to demonstrate, and I think it's been acknowledged by President Trump, about the nature of our relationship. Canada and the US exchange about 2.4 billion per day. We have about 400,000 people crossing the border every day. 35 states of the United States are dependent on Canada as their primary export market. Overall, we're the first customer of the United States. We're the largest energy supplier with its oil, gas, electricity. So I think there was a recognition that this trade arrangement that we have is beneficial. 9 million US jobs are dependent on export to Canada.
With a new president in the White House, what's the future of Canada's energy policy?
Well, first of all, we need to recognize Canada is the largest energy supplier to the United States, whether it's about oil, gas, or electricity. I mean, a good part of New York electricity is coming from Quebec. So I think that we will remain, good partner. We are strategic partners, and I think there's a recognition in the United States about that. And, we like to be, good partners, because I think energy security is key in North America. And Canada has huge natural resources, so we're very pleased to continue that relationship with the United States. You saw that President Trump ordered or issued an executive order about Keystone Pipeline. So we see that as good news. We want to remain good energy partners.
One of your mandated missions is to boost, to bring about new partnerships and trade with fast-growing markets like China. Tell us something about that policy and how you see that moving.
You know, as I was saying, you know, Canada is very much a Pacific nation. So part of my mandate is to strengthen our relationship with China, Japan, and India. You know, trade, you have to look at that over decades. So it's important for us to put the milestones to have the position in these markets. We owe it to Canadian consumers and to Canadian workers to develop our access to these markets. Following the visit of Prime Minister of China and the meeting with Prime Minister Trudeau, there's been a high-level discussion. We agreed that we should look into whether we should have a free trade agreement between our two nations. This is very much in the feasibility study stage. Our officials are talking. We're looking whether that would be beneficial. What are the areas we can look at? But clearly, like I said, it is important for Canada to get access, preferential access to these important markets. We're putting the milestones. You know, for us, trade equals growth, growth equals job. So Canada has been pursuing a very progressive trade agenda, and people want to do trade with Canada these days.
What about CETA? What are your thoughts on that? What benefits will that bring?
Well, CETA, I think, on both sides of the Atlantic, I think is a real opportunity. I mean, for Canadian, it gives us access to a preferential market of 510 million consumers. So that's very significant. As you know, the moment that we have provisional application of the CETA agreement, 9,000 tariff lines are going to go down to zero. But let me bring that to people, you know, for example. So if you're exporting seafood from Newfoundland or the west coast of Canada to Europe, now you're facing a tariff which can go up to 25%. So day one of application of the treaty, it go down to zero. Take the other side. So if you're a Canadian consumer and you want to import furniture from Sweden, today you're probably paying a tariff of about 9 to 10%. So on day one, that would go to zero. So when I say making trade real for people is that in this case, you see, it's more choice for consumers, it's better price for consumers, and we need to translate that in jobs for workers and opportunities for small and medium-sized businesses.
And when will that kick in?
Well, we expect that to come in spring. The process in Europe, as you know, passed the vote of the EU Parliament in Strasbourg. We are with our own process, you know. The House of Commons have already reviewed and approved it. Now it's in our Senate. But we are very confident that this is going to go smoothly because people realize that this is this is the most progressive trade agreement ever negotiated by either Canada or the European Union. It includes provision about the environment, about labor standards, about the right of states to legislate in the interest of health and safety. So this progressive trade agreement is the gold standard in the world.
Minister, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Next on Counting the Cost, we're in Kenya, where people living in areas suffering from drought and food shortages are hoping to benefit from the discovery of oil. As Catherine Soy reports from Turkana County.
Welcome to Turkana, Kenya's dry, hot and desolate region. But there's something in the horizon. One of the poorest areas in the country is now pumping oil. Tullow Oil, a British company, has been here since 2012, and its engineers say the oil they've discovered is of good quality and is commercially viable. The country's oil reserves are up to 750 million barrels. Over the coming months, the government wants some of the crude oil transported by trucks and trains to a port on the Kenyan coast, more than 1,000 kilometers away. During this pilot production phase, about 2,000 barrels a day will be pumped, a small amount compared to the millions of barrels produced by other big oil producers in Africa. Full production capacity will only be known after the test run. Eventually, the plan is to build a heated pipeline that can easily pump the thick tar-like oil along its way. It won't be easy or cheap.
You will be thinking about the resource levels that you want to put through the pipeline. You need to fine-tune your designs. You think about the counties through which the pipeline would run across, so you're talking about land access.
Full production is still years away, but what many people here in Turkana want to know is how it will benefit them. Turkana leaders are negotiating how revenue from this oil will trickle down to the community. Many people we talk to here say they just want the basics:
food, water, good schools, hospitals, roads, and jobs for their children.
The company has put up some community projects, including water tanks like this, schools, and has employed many locals. But people say they also want to know more about the oil.
This is how the oil looks like, yeah?
We take a sample to a village near some of the oil wells. Their conversation about the smell, color, thickness, and value is intense.
Some people write that the oil will belong to all of us. Then we were told the community would get 10% of the revenue. Then it changed to 5%. It's all very confusing.
Government officials who visited the oil rig say that everyone will benefit.
We are looking at forming a sovereign wealth fund. We want to continue to be a diversified economy, even if we have oil.
Many of Turkana's people, who are mainly pastoralists, say they've been ignored for too long. They're forced to rely on food aid because of recurring droughts. Those we talk to hope once the oil starts selling, this region will thrive.
Now, we've heard about loss-making technology startups making big amounts of cash in their stock market debuts before, but when Snap, the parent company of Snapchat, listed on the New York Stock Exchange, it stood out for another reason. It was the first company to ever issue shares without voting rights in an initial public offering. Now, that means its owners don't have to answer to shareholders, so concerns over corporate governance there. But that's not all. As Gabe Elizondo reports now from New York.
Can a young photo messaging app founded by two college students be the next big thing? It already is, not only for the 150 million mostly young people who use Snapchat daily, but now, it seems, with Wall Street as well. With a valuation of more than $30 billion, the social media upstart began trading on the New York Stock Exchange, one of the most lucrative and high-profile tech stock launches in years. It's remarkable considering Snapchat started only a few years ago as an app allowing users to send photos and messages that instantly disappeared after being viewed. But the company has quickly grown into a mobile multimedia platform of user-generated content. Where its fans love it so much, Snapchat made glasses they can wear.
I take a 10-second clip. I can just push this button right here. You'll see that it should be lighting up, and it takes a video that records what I'm seeing, basically, straight from the glasses.
So you're seeing me right now?
I am, yeah.
Pretty cool.
It is. It's great.
Sure, Snapchat might be fun, but is it really a social media company worth billions of dollars? That could go either way. If Snapchat translates the hype into advertising revenue, it could end up like Facebook, which has more than tripled its stock price since going public 5 years ago. If Snapchat stumbles, it could end up like Twitter, unable to monetize its popularity. It's seen its stock price halved since it went public 4 years ago. Right now, investors are betting on Snapchat's potential.
In terms of profitability, this company does not make profits, does not make money as yet. It's losing a lot of money. It generated about $400 million in sales in 2016, lost about a little over $500 million. So it's a losing proposition at this point, but that's not their focus right now.
Instead, the focus now is to prove to the business world it's worthy of all the hype, and unlike the messages it sends, it won't disappear overnight.
Well, the world's most valuable startup company is, of course, taxi-hailing app Uber. Because it's privately owned, the company doesn't have to answer to shareholders either. But its CEO did have to answer to his public, as it turned out. Travis Kalanick has apologized after a video of him swearing at one of the company's drivers went viral. Alan Fisher reports.
Fawzi Kamel has been driving for Uber since 2011. When he picked up the company's boss, Travis Kalanick, on a Sunday in February, he wanted to let him know how things were getting tougher for drivers. He complained income was falling and blamed Uber's fare structure.
You're raising the standards and you're dropping the prices.
We're not dropping the price on black.
But in general, the whole price...
Yeah, we have to. We have competitors. Otherwise we go out of business.
The driver was recording the ride for safety, as he often did. What he got was an outburst from Uber's chief executive.
You keep changing. Hold on a second. What have I changed about black?
Huh?
What
you
have I
changed the whole business.
What?
You dropped the prices.
On black?
Yes, you did. We started with $20. We started with $20.
You know what?
How much is the mile now? $2.75?
You know what?
What?
Some people don't like to take responsibility for
I
their
take
own.
responsibility.
They blame everything
But
in
why
their
you
life on
sending
somebody
an email
else.
for town card?
Good luck.
Good luck to you too. But
Mr. Kamel turned the video over to the Bloomberg News Group, who published it online. It went viral, and the rideshare boss was forced into an apology. In a staff memo, he said, "To say that I'm ashamed is an extreme understatement. My job as your leader is to lead, and that starts with behaving in a way that makes us all proud. That is not what I did, and it cannot be explained away. It's clear this video is a reflection of me, and the criticism we've received is a stark reminder that I must fundamentally change as a leader and grow up." It's been a troubled few months for Uber. In December, it pulled its self-driving cars off the road in San Francisco after the California Department of Motor Vehicles said they were operating illegally. In January, more than 200,000 people deleted their accounts after the company was accused of undermining a New York taxi union strike protesting President Donald Trump's refugee ban. And just last month, a former software engineer at Uber claimed one of her managers propositioned her for sex. Kalanick ordered an investigation into the allegations, calling sexism abhorrent. Uber is a global company worth around $69 billion. Through its app, it asks passengers to rate drivers and drivers to rate passengers. Kalanick was given just 1 star, the lowest rating possible.
Still to come on Counting the Cost, buying a ticket to the moon and back. Could commercial space tourism become a reality by next year? But first, factory wages in China are now higher than in Mexico, Argentina and Brazil. Average wages rose to $3.60 an hour last year. That's according to market research firm Euromonitor. However, higher pay packets could mean that China will lose jobs to countries where wages are cheaper. And rising tension between China and neighbouring North Korea could have economic implications. Adrian Brown reports now from the Chinese border city of Dandong.
When buying a new luxury apartment, the view is key, even when that view is of North Korea. Complete with Baroque furnishings, this place has been on the market for more than a year, the asking price just shy of $1 million. The apartment is one of 1,100 in a complex called Moon Island. We were told that more than 400 had been sold. Apart from the agents, we saw no one else. Building work began before the United Nations imposed trade sanctions on North Korea in 2016.
The sales of this apartment haven't been affected too much by sanctions against North Korea. Most buyers are not local and want a summer home.
The opulence contrasts starkly with the view just a few hundred meters away. Coal exports provide badly needed currency for the North's economy, but for now, China has stopped buying the coal you can see here. It means fewer trains are now operating from the main freight depot in Dandong, where some of the North's coal was handled until a few weeks ago. This city's economic survival is dependent on that trade. It once had big ambitions. A 4-lane suspension bridge was completed 3 years ago, but it can't be used because the North Koreans never built a road to meet it. Whether it's the impact of sanctions or China's slowing economy, Dandong is hurting. A year ago, the owner of this restaurant told us business had already begun to slow. He says it's worse now.
Compared to this time last year, customers have dropped by about 30%. I hope it will peak again during the summer.
Nearby shops and businesses have closed, partly because there are fewer North Korean tourists now.
This is the China-North Korea Friendship Bridge, and normally at this time of day you'd see plenty of lorries trundling backwards and forwards across it, but for the past few hours there's been virtually no activity at all. It is a sign perhaps that it's not just the economy on the other side of the river that's hurting, so too is the one here in Dandong.
China has not stopped trading with North Korea completely though. As darkness fell, the bridge suddenly became very busy, with lorries going to and from North Korea, but it was hard to tell what their cargoes were. By night, the city is illuminated by neon, compared to the faint light on the other side of the river.
Now, returnship. It's the latest buzzword in recruitment. It is a chance offered to adults who've taken time away from their careers and who want to get back to work. More than 160 companies around the globe have started returnship programs. They aim to lure back people after career breaks. A UN report shows that 25% of women in the EU give caring for family and other personal responsibilities as the reason for not currently being in the labour force, versus only 3% of men. Now, in the UK, about 500,000 professional women are currently taking a break from work. 90% of them plan to return to work at some point in the future. But returnships are not without criticism. Some women say they're not offered full-time positions after completing a returnship programme. And some of those who are offered jobs say that they're not paid at a level commensurate with their experience. I caught up with Serpil Timurade, the chief executive of Vodafone Africa, Middle East and Asia Pacific. I asked her about their plans to launch a returnship program across 11 territories this week.
There are 55 million women between the age of 30 and 54 that have given a career break and they want to come back to their professional lives. And based on this information, now we are launching our new initiative named Reconnect, which targets women that have given a career break, and we want to get them back into Vodafone, into managerial roles.
All right. What sort of roles will you be placing these women in?
Well, it is various roles. So it is what is important is that we offer managerial roles that are senior managers and above.
These women, will they receive a salary that's commensurate with people who are doing a similar job in the organisation, or are you going to have are you basically looking to get experience on the cheap?
No, not at all. At Vodafone, we have an equal pay for equal position policy, and we are monitoring this on a very regular basis in all of our countries. So therefore, every woman that gets a position as part of the Reconnect initiative will get the same equal pay for that position.
Serpil, it's been great talking to you. Many thanks indeed for being with us on Counting the Cost.
Thank you, Adrian.
Finally this week, Elon Musk, the CEO of SpaceX, is planning on flying 2 space tourists to the moon and back by the end of next year. Victoria Gatenby reports.
1. Ignition and liftoff of the...
SpaceX will attempt to launch 2 unnamed individuals, paying customers said to be very serious about travelling around the moon and back. They've already put down what's described as a significant deposit.
We haven't done this since Apollo 8 back in 1968, and we haven't been back to the moon since 1972. So this is indeed an exciting development. What happened is Elon Musk started SpaceX to go to Mars. He himself says he wants to go to Mars and colonize Mars. And I've always maintained that the moon is a great waypoint, a great stepping stone on the path to Mars. So it's exciting for me to hear about his plan to begin by orbiting 2 people around the moon.
We don't know how much the week-long journey will cost, but the company says it'll take the amateur space travellers near the moon's surface and then further out to space before looping back to Earth. It's a distance of more than 640,000 kilometres. They'll be on board what's called a Dragon crew capsule, a fully automated spacecraft with no human pilot. Musk says the individuals are fully aware the mission comes with risks. SpaceX has had major accidents, including in September last year when a rocket taking a $200 million satellite from Facebook blew up. An investigation concluded there was a problem with one of its helium tanks.
2, 1.
Recently, though, the company has had a series of successful launches and landings. The United States hasn't sent astronauts to the moon since 1972. This trip, planned for late next year, could be the first of many more to come.
Elon Musk has held several meetings with the new president, and the new president is interested in going back to the moon, which, as I said earlier, makes a lot of sense on the path to going to Mars. And so I'm not surprised, not totally surprised, that Elon Musk is now thinking about the moon and talking about the moon.
Control the spacecraft.
Musk says if all goes well next year, he hopes to send more people into space once or twice a year.
Time for us to come back to Earth. That's our show for this week. There's more for you online at aljazeera.com/CTC. That'll take you to our page, which has individual reports, links, and even entire episodes for you to catch up on. You can also get in touch with us on Twitter. I'm at @afinnegan. Please use the hashtag AJCTC when you do, or you can drop us an email. countingthecost@aljazeera.net is our address. And that's it for this edition of Counting the Cost. I'm Adrian Finnegan from the whole team here in Doha. Thanks for being with us. The news on Al Jazeera is next.